The Russian parliament has now given the green light to Vladimir Putin to use Russian troops outside of Russian territory. Well, to talk about that, our Moscow correspondent Nick Holdsworth is on the line. Nick, just tell us what it is that's happening in Parliament right now and how significant this apparent agreement is to formally allow Russian troops to fight abroad.
This is part of a process that's been going on for quite a while. There have been various stages, various milestones, if you like. Started with a vote a couple of weeks ago by the Russian parliament proposing to recognise the Luhansk People's Republic and the Donetsk People's Republic, those two breakaway regions, as legitimate states in their own right. And that really paved the way for what we've seen in the last 24 hours or so, which is Russian so-called peacekeeping troops move across the Russian border into those occupied areas of those two eastern provinces in Ukraine. And now a further step following that strange meeting last night between Vladimir Putin and his various officials, some of whom looked decidedly uncomfortable as they were more or less forced to swear fealty to Vladimir Putin and say, yes, they agreed with this move. Then his angry speech. Peacekeeping troops have moved in. And now we have another step by the parliament saying that there will be formal treaties recognising, or there is two formal treaties recognising those breakaway territories of Ukraine as independent states, and also approving the use of Russian forces abroad. Now, the interesting thing here, I mean, this decision takes immediate effect. Does abroad mean deploying those troops on the line of contact between the Ukrainian Kiev government-backed forces and the breakaway Russian-backed rebel secessionist forces? Or does that mean moving beyond that line of contact abroad, as into Ukraine proper? Now, that is the clear and present danger, but all of this looks like it's been scripted and planned, and my sources have actually been indicating that for weeks now, that this has all been planned, and it's all been done in response to how NATO, how the Americans, how the Ukrainians have reacted. And that's not to put any blame there, but this is clearly a plan that is unfolding according to a pre-decided plan, if you like.
Indeed, Nick. And one of the very interesting aspects of all of this is the language that Russian officials have been using. You mentioned the word peacekeepers, these forces that will be apparently going into the Donbass. Is there any indication that these are troops going in to maintain the peace? Do we know who they are?
No, as far as I'm aware, there are no unit insignia, which is a little bit chilling, really. It's a reminder of those little green men that turned up in the Crimea in 2014, if viewers remember that. No indication of precisely who they are. This time we do know that they are Russian troops, forces. These will have been units that have been sat on the border for weeks and weeks. Again, I should stress that this has all been done quite apparently, I would say, according to plan, but that plan has been predicated upon what NATO, the Americans, the Ukrainians have done. And the Russians, it's fair to say, the Russians have been saying for weeks and weeks now, if there had been some movement from Kiev on that key issue of talking with the leaders of the secessionist territories in eastern Ukraine that Russia has now recognised as independent states and moved its troops into. If there had been movement on talks under the Minsk agreement from Kiev, then things may have been different, because that was a key issue, apart from the NATO eastward expansion issue. That was a key issue for the Russians. That said, you can't really blame the Ukrainians. It's in their constitution not to actually deal with those rebels. But in the real world, sooner or later, they're going to have to talk to those secessionist leaders one day. Better done before war than after. That's not to support Putin's approach, because Putin's approach definitely is that of somebody who wants to use force to get his own way. Equally, on the Western side of the coin, the NATO, the Ukrainian, the American, the European side of the coin, I would say, unfortunately, there's been not sufficient emotional intelligence. One cannot expect that from Vladimir Putin. but one can perhaps hope that for the West.
Nick Holdsworth, thanks very much indeed for your reporting. We are